I don't believe I have. Classic expansion leaked. I don't think this is real, chat. I don't think there's any leaks, but we could check it out.
Instead of going into Outland, we remain on Azeroth. Classic branches off to a new timeline. We get playable Hyles for the Alliance and Ogres for the Horde. The Scourge continues to be a significant threat and could possibly even invade us instead of us going to Northrend. Chris Metzen, that is now the lead story guy, is behind this project, and this could be a whole new World of Warcraft. Now, this leak has been going around for a few weeks now, and while it could, of course, be fake, there is some evidence behind it with a ton of suspicious encrypted builds building up for months on Classic, signifying that something is definitely coming, the proposed zones actually existing in the Classic build but not available, and most importantly,
I like how
this
optimistic
might
he is, chat.
actually be the chance to save the franchise and to restart the old storyline, to start World of Warcraft from scratch, which could really get a lot of eyes back on the game. So is this leak legit? What are all of the Classic expansion features? I've been using this mod for nearly 3 months.
Chat, they need to 100% make it where... I don't know, man. It's a double-edged sword. Would you guys prefer if Blizzard lets you vote or no? Like, vote on what they put in. I don't know if people are going to troll and choose the shitty stuff, or they're actually going to choose the good stuff. Vote on one, kind of like old school RuneScape, right? Because if we just give them the full wheel, what if Blizzard, you know, goes the wrong route, right? There's that as well. I feel like it's better to put in things players really, really want. Old school RuneScape has a voting system, but I heard old school RuneScape gets trolled hard too in the voting system now.
Now, and it is amazing. Cash goes in here, cards go like this,
Send to skip
and you
cat,
even
I want
got
mob.
this little tracker that you can find your wallet if you lose it through the app. There's so many styles you can choose from. You got premium leather, you got carbon fiber, aluminum, and they also have key cases that can also be fitted with the tracker so that you don't lose your keys as well. Best of all, these wallets are super affordable, and they're even more affordable if you use my code DORON, and you can get up to 25% off your wallets or key cases. So check out Extra.
Thank you. Insane
So
wallet.
the reason everyone has been talking about this is because not only would this genuinely be something novel and potentially game-changing for World of Warcraft as a whole, but there is actually something behind this, as we have evidence for a few of these features that are being mentioned in this supposed leak. First of
Dude,
all,
you guys have ruined my brain in stream chat. When I saw those towers come up, man.
there are a ton of builds for the patch 115, months of encrypted builds with something hidden for Classic, so even if it is not this expansion, something is definitely coming. Furthermore, the zones that this guy mentions are actually sort of already.
Oh, I read this. God, I don't know if the leak is true or not, chat. I don't know. I feel like this BlizzCon, if they announce Classic Plus, it'll be huge, but less likely, right? Or maybe they will, dude. Hardcore got created because people demanded. People have been demanding Classic Plus for a while, right? Maybe it would happen. I think this BlizzCon, they'll announce something else, like a new season of Mastery, but not called Season of Mastery, and then maybe next year Classic Plus. They announce it in BlizzCon.
There, in vanilla, there is actually an unfinished version of Mount Hyjal that could potentially be different than the one we got in Cataclysm, as keep in mind, this was closer to Warcraft 3 at this point in time, and it might not have Ragnaros and those crazy guys just burning everything down, which is why Mount Hyjal today is half destroyed, as this was all prompted by the Cataclysm. Furthermore, Chris Metzen really did return as one of the lead story guys at Blizzard, and this is the guy that pretty much created the roots of this game that everyone fell in love with. He was said to be mainly focusing on the World of Warcraft team right now, but he's working on the Warcraft universe as a whole. While this could of course signal another game that could be announced soon if by WoW they mean retail, it could mean that big things are in the works for Classic. Furthermore, if we go by the same logic that WoW is referred to as retail, the CEO of Blizzard on Twitter promised that WoW and Warcraft will have the biggest amount of news this year on BlizzCon, which could be yet another huge hint. Another thing to support this is that this would actually just be a good idea for the entire franchise. I mean, let's be real, they have been trying for a few expansions now on retail, and it's just not exactly hitting the mark, at least until 11.0, until we learn what this is about. And the game, player-wise, is nowhere near close to what it was back in World of Warcraft Classic, so trying a different strategy, playing off Classic and actually upgrading it, if done right, could be a significant game changer. So here is the general premise of how this leak, like how it works. This would be the first ever Classic Plus expansion, meaning that this would be an alternate universe of sorts, not alternate as in time travel like Worlds of Draenor, but like an alternate storyline to the main one. Instead of what they have already been doing, just continuing the main timeline and releasing the same expansions, they would branch off in Classic and do another storyline for this new world. So TBC would never happen, the Dark Portal would never open, and instead we would remain on Azeroth and we would continue on the storylines that were set up here. I mean, remember, Classic never really had any big evils. It had a lot of storylines that were kind of left open-ended, so we would continue onto those, and we wouldn't leave the planet to fight Illidan on Outland. Even more interestingly, Illidan might come to us to deal with Arthas once again, just like he did back in Warcraft 3. There wouldn't be new continents. We would get two new zones, Hyjal and the Emerald Dream. This one is a little bit suspicious, as keep in mind, Hyjal is actually sort of there in Classic, and there have been hints of Emerald Dream in Classic as well. The only kind of confusing part would be that we're literally going into the dream itself in 10.2 retail, so not sure how this would really connect. I mean, it could be intentional. They may be setting something up with this new storyline so they can somehow connect the lore. We would of course have the same level cap as 70, just as it was back in TBC, and it seems like the Scourge...
Should they increase the level cap, chat? I don't know, man.
Would be a big focus of this
I don't know
expansion,
about that
which
one.
honestly
I don't
think
know
would
how
be
I
a
feel.
great idea.
Yeah, no, right? Yeah,
if
if we go like that route, we're just gonna eventually be inflated again.
Trouble back in the Plaguelands, and at this point in time in Classic, Arthas was near the peak of his power. I mean, remember, the Lich King still exists. He's still gathering strength in Northrend. Imagine that we don't go to Northrend, but he invades us successfully through his scourges already on the continent. Now, that would be something that would be crazy, and they could really play off old super iconic characters without a lot of the newly twisted lore. Now, the most interesting feature, in my opinion, would be these two new races, which I actually think would be the best fit of pretty much any race we could received through any expansion. With Ogres, it is simple.
Dude, Ogres look pog with that armor on.
I mean, remember, they have been a part of the Horde since Warcraft 3. There is absolutely nothing that is stopping Blizzard from adding them, and they're heavily requested by the community. Even in retail, they're still a part of the Horde, technically, just Blizzard doesn't really care to show them to us. The other race would be High Elves. Now, you may be thinking, I mean, that is kind of stupid, we already have Blood Elves, but we actually don't. I mean, DBC would never happen, so Quota Loss wouldn't be a thing yet that is available at this point. And the High Elves are actually part of the Alliance already at this time during Classic. So instead of the Alliance getting the Draenei, they would get High Elves, aka Blood Elves with blue eyes, and the Horde, instead of Blood Elves, would get Ogres. Honestly, I think that would be an amazing alternate reality and would actually be a significant change to the original lore. Furthermore, the leak mentions that this new expansion would reuse assets from TBC and Rat to keep the same aesthetic. Of course, a lot of those assets are expansion specific, but we got a ton of buildings like the Horde and the Alliance ones that would make a ton of sense to be added to Classic. They're also not as big of a contrast as Classic and retail models right now, as honestly the new models would really just stick out, so this part makes sense. Although personally,
I think they would have to make new models with like classic style textures. That would be the best. Because if they add in like new models, they would have to... It would look off for sure. I mean, I like the retail graphic, don't get me wrong, right? But in Classic, I think it has to be like classic textures for sure.
Even though I understand the entire point of Classic, I really don't see just why they wouldn't update the graphics to today's standards just with the same gameplay. The only thing keeping the old graphics relevant is really just nostalgia. With Chris Madsen in charge, I think all of this done right could legit be something that could potentially save World of Warcraft lore. We could have Troll pre-Cataclysm still as a war chief. We have Sylvanas that isn't just insane fanfiction that she is today. We still have Arthas in his Between Wrath and Warcraft 3 stage that is Kel Tuzad. We got Illidan. Pretty much all the characters everyone loves without all the ruined lore. Honestly, the potential of this could be ridiculously amazing if they actually manage to pull it off. However, the only big major problem with this would be kind of the entire multiverse and how confusing this could potentially get. I mean, think about it. We got regular classic, the classic that is getting the regular updates. Now there's branched off classic and retail. That's like 4 timelines going on at the same time, which could definitely be seen as problematic. However, think about it. I mean, it would honestly just be 2. Classic and the old expansion being re-released is literally the same timeline as retail. This would be another one that will go parallel, but ultimately it would only really be 2 timelines. Think about it. I mean, we already have Hearthstone kind of going parallel, which isn't really causing any problems.
What the fuck? This is a Uther?
Warcraft franchise. The other problem with this Classic Plus expansion is only kind of the suspicious name of this league that doesn't make it sound all that legit. It is the fact that it is called World of Warcraft Awakening. Personally, I don't see how this really aligns with Classic. I would think that is a more legit name for the 11.0 expansion with Azeroth Awakening. The only reality I could tie it is to potentially discourage Awakening and becoming a bigger threat, or Awakening as in like a reforged thing. The name itself, of course, might be BS, but I can't say that this concept overall wouldn't actually be
Yeah, do you think that's real? That's
great idea, of course, depending on the execution. Personally, this is as close to as they can get to starting the story from scratch and really reworking a lot of the old lore. Let's be real, but a lot of the iconic Warcraft lore, there's just no going back. I mean, you can't really rebuild Sylvanas, even though they're trying to do it, or Arthas, or you can't really unjailer this game. They also talked about how this new lore is the new post-Warcraft 3 era World of Warcraft, and this new expansion, or old new expansion, could focus on the old era and to build parallel one to it. Thank you for watching. Check out the new Night Elven City coming by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on ancient Greek colonies in Spain by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Thank you, Dorian. That was, I don't know if I've seen this video before, my first one. Good take. Good speculations, I guess. Cool idea, but it's all fake. Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna happen or not. I feel like most likely it'll happen next BlizzCon if enough voices are heard.